Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast. You thought I'd forgotten Tom Baker, didn't you? Our exciting fourth Doctor. Well, he's back. And he's with Big Finish. Well, you know. Now, we've got the whole issue of over who's Tom Baker going to work with. There were hints at a recent chat that Tom Baker and Matthew Waterhouse might end up together at some point. But we're looking at a few years' time. Let's face it, Tom's 80, so they're going to be recording as many as they can, as fast as they can, and probably get quite far ahead. So the idea of anyone being able to write for the Fourth Doctor, who isn't already on staff, kind of not really going to happen. Now, like the Dark Eye series with Paul McGann, this kind of runs parallel to the main range, because let's face it, Big Finish have got, well, 5 Doctors they can work with. Now, if everyone was going to have, say, 2 stories a year, it just wouldn't work. Our appetite for new Doctor Who is, well, boundless if our pockets aren't. So, their solution is to have the main range, and I'm using the little rabbit ears as always, covering Doctors 5, 6 and 7, running in throughout the year. They get 3 stories per year, at least, not counting specials, of course. Hence the whole trilogy thing. Basically everyone gets there's 4 trilogies a year. Then you've got the Tom Baker sets. The Tom Baker sets are interesting because you end up with individual discs. 1 disc, 1 story. There are times when you get 2 discs, 1 story, and that just irritates me, but I've covered this before and you don't need to know it again. At the moment, this being Series 3, we've had 1 disc, 1 story. Bit of a story arc going on, we'll cover that in a minute. But so far the series has been great. As I record this, we've had 3 individual stories. This podcast covers the King of Sontar. So, we're all up to date, we all know what's happening. Here we have Tom Baker and Leela, for reasons which we've already covered. And we've also got, Dan Starkey. Ah, yes. David Collings, who we do like. And, basically, a 2-episode story. Episodes are slightly longer than usual, which gives us a nice bit of breathing space, shall we say. They're all 2 episodes long, but as long as you can deny that in your head. And remember, these are after Leela's joined and during her education. The education of Leela is an important thing to always remember when we deal with the Fourth Doctor. Because Louise Jameson, it's the one thing that she always, I don't want to use the word goes on about, but she does mention that Leela's character, this was the thing we were sold on. The whole Eliza Doolittle educating by the Doctor thing. That's what we were told. That's what she was told was going to happen to the character. And it just didn't work. She fought tooth and nail to retain Leela's credibility. Now, because these audios are all written and directed by people who love the series and understand Leela, we're getting that. That's what we're getting here. We're getting what we should have had all along. So back to the King of Sontar. The basic plot is this. The TARDIS is manipulated by the Time Lords. Now, remember that phrase, because we'll be coming back to that over the next couple of weeks. And arrives in a small, planet, where they encounter the greatest Sontaran ever made. The greatest Sontaran ever made. Think about that. Now, this story's been written by John Dorney, so the script's going to be decent. But here we have, when you're writing, one of the things that gets mentioned a lot in writing courses is something called the turnaround. Now, we're not talking about the emotional switch which happens in the middle of a story, or indeed in the middle of each episode. Some writers are particularly talented at that. I'm not. And that's something we have. But here we take an idea. Let me see, how do I describe this? Well, in comedy, you have certain concepts called yoking, where you put one idea and one other idea, concepts, yoke them together in a ludicrous way, and we come out with either a metaphor or a new comic situation. Spitting Image were very good at that. But here we have the turnaround, where we take the established normal idea, turn it on its head, and see where the narrative takes us from there. It's an interesting way of coming up with ideas. So, your basic idea of your Sontarans are, they are militaristic, check. They are warlike in various points, check. They're aware of Gallifrey and time travel, check. But they're also very small, and they're clones. The one thing that we turn around here is that they're very small. Basically, like Lintilla in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the cloning vats go wrong, and we end up with, instead of 1 battalion of clones, 1 massive 7-8 foot tall Sontaran. Now, all of these Sontarans, I wouldn't say all of them, most of them are voiced by Dan Starkey, who does the Sontarans on TV. He is the go-to Sontaran. Now, on the audio extras, you actually hear Dan talking about having Sontaran lessons, and it is interesting to learn about the intonation that Sontarans use. Because of their psychological makeup, they're always trying to get to the end of the sentence. They're battling on through words, if you see what I mean. And once you know that, you can kind of spot that, and it really does help you identify Sontaran speech patterns. It's rather nice. So the Doctor has been sent to take out this ultimate Sontaran by the Time Lords. He is being manipulated in the way that he was used, very, very much so, in Genesis of the Daleks. I don't really want to spoil anything because obviously these stories have just come out, but it's a great reintroduction to the Fourth Doctor. Some people have been saying that he's sounding old, that he's not quite pulling the character off, but there is one interview with Nick Briggs that kind of summed it up. It's not that Tom Baker's 80 or anything like that. It's simply that they recorded all these together and the guy had a cold. He's battling through, he's pulling it off, and there's no reason to believe that, well, just like Time Lords can be bit on the nose while having a sausage dangling out their mouth in a pub and have a scar on their chin, there's no reason to believe that Time Lords can't get some sort of illness, despite the fact that that's actually gone into In Antidote for Oblivion, but let's leave it there. So Tom might be sounding a little bit under the weather, but that's mainly because he was a little bit under the weather. Yes, this is a very good story, and yes, my issues are, as always, that it's just not enough. But we have got 3 stories so far, and there's 8 in this series. Now, I don't know how many of those are combined stories like we got last year with the Romana Dalek stories, but I hope they are individual standalones. The quality is high, the standard of the acting is, well, as good as you'd expect or want. So yes, as always, fantastic work from Big Finish. The King of Sontar, Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor, Series 3, Story 1, sorted. Be seeing you.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions, The Fourth Doctor Adventures, Doctor Who, The King of Sontar.
Ah!
It is a cavern.
I thought the navigation system felt a little bumpy.
But it is wonderful.
The wrong planet? There's only one way this could have happened.
This is Commander Garn of the 3rd Elite Sontaran Assassination Squad. Resistance is inadvisable if you wish to remain alive.
They're coming through! Keep firing! Keep firing! The Time Lords have sent you here.
I'm not an odd job man. Do you hear that?
An alarm.
Why are there always alarms?
Out of my way, human scum!
Oh!
Doctor!
Run, Leela, run!
For the glory of Sontar!
Another Sontaran? And a big one, too.
How does it feel, Doctor, knowing your actions have facilitated the destruction of the entire Sontaran race? I am the ultimate being. I shall execute the failed Sontaran leadership and start a new species from my prototype, with me as supreme ruler. You have no courage. Death is the answer, my friend.
Subscribers get more at bigfinish.com.
You know that trouble we were looking for, I think we may have found it.
You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who is the property of the BBC and no infringement is intended. To contact the show or to find out more about Whostrology and my other works, click on the links on the Tin Dog Podcast homepage. Why not follow Blue Box Messiah, all one word, on Twitter to keep up to date with tour dates of my forthcoming Doctor Who comedy play. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.